Well, let's look ahead at today's budget speech by the Finance Minister, and to help us unpack some of what's going to come and how markets are likely to respond is Owen Nkomo. He's the Chief Executive of Inkunzi Wealth Group. Owen, good morning, and thank you very much for your time. You know, as usual at this time, you look at all kinds of media and what people are saying and what they should be expecting to come out. From a market perspective, just an overriding question, what would the market be expecting to hear?
The market is expecting big decisions around how the state plans to balance expenditure relative to shrinking revenue. That is what we're looking out for, and we're looking out for sustainable plans to deal with some of the big problems the country is facing. We're talking about Eskom, we're talking about broadly the state-owned enterprises, and we're talking about what the good minister will do about the bloated civil service wage bill, which is about 30-odd% of the national budget.
Talking about the bloated service wage bill, I was just thinking, didn't President Ramaphosa, during his New Dawn Tumamina inspirational beginning of his term, speak about we're going to look at reducing the size of the cabinet? And we're still sitting here. He did a little bit of consolidation of some portfolios, but it's still a big cabinet.
Yes, he did reduce some of the ministries and merge some of the ministries. But I think what's important is to address the wage bill itself by implementing what they had planned to do before, to say, let's offer people who are about 55 years of age, early retirement packages without any penalties. And I think that has gone horribly badly, because it doesn't look to me like they've achieved a lot of success on that front, which would have saved them billions.
Is it far-fetched to expect the president, the finance minister, to say the salaries of ministers are not going to go up?
No, I think that one is priced in. I think it's priced in already.
It doesn't make much of a difference.
No, it doesn't make much of a difference. But that's the problem, Braden. The guys always go for the small little things that are cosmetic, but they're not going for the backbone of the problems. Where you're saying, okay, the government wage bill is 30% of the total budget. So we want to reduce this maybe by 5% or by 10%, and this is how we're going to get there. And come back and report to us and tell us what you have done. That's not happening.
Now, I'll be talking to COSATU hopefully later on. They've issued a statement the other day talking about they're not happy with the government, the attempt by the government to review one of the resolutions in terms of adjusting public service salaries. It looks like that could be likely to be a battlefield for them.
Yes, it's certainly going to be. I think, the government has been pushed into a position where they act around that. As we've just mentioned, that if they don't tamper with the government wage bill, they would be missing out on a big opportunity to adjust their expenses.
Should we expect it, Moyane, to say something about what the president spoke about? There's going to be a state bank. Should we expect more information around that kind of stuff? And there's going to be a sovereign wealth fund.
Yeah, definitely. We're expecting details of that. I'll be very interested, particularly, to find out how we are going to fund the Sovereign Wealth Bank. And I'll be very interested to find out why they're not just taking African Bank and converting it into a state bank, because the Reserve Bank is already backing up the balance sheet of African Bank. It'll be a good starting point, and then they'll achieve all these goals that they have, instead of starting from scratch, which will take them another 10 years, and more investments to researching how a state bank can be put to work. So I'll be pleasantly surprised if they decide that they want to take African Bank and convert it into the state bank. Otherwise, away from that, any continuous rhetoric and soft talk of we will do this, we will do that, without saying, hey, we've decided finally, after discussing this for years, that SAA must be privatized, we will have failed.
Last week, my colleague in KwaZulu-Natal, Spamandla Gok, last weekend, the president was in Vryheid, and he doorstepped him and said, what do you think about the budget? And he said it's going to be a robust budget, okay? And then they said, I don't know what he means by robust budget. And then on the other hand, I've been seeing commentators saying, no, we need austerity. And there are also outside parliament, there'll be civic organizations protesting against austerity.
Yeah.
What kind of budget is this likely to be? Is it going to be the toughest one that Tito Moyane has had to come up with?
Look, it's always a tough balancing act, because there's many varied interests when it comes to the budget. You've got the unions, you've got you and me who are worried about paying higher tax, you've got companies, you've got the government, you've got government stakeholders. So the fact of the matter is you need someone who's going to almost dictate what will happen, and then just close their eyes, take the decision and go, and they'll be remembered for having made those decisions than for pussyfooting around and dilly-dallying when we are experiencing our worst economic downturn since, the late 90s. So I think we need strong decisions.
Yeah, it's time for tough and bold
Absolutely.
decisions.
We should.
We'll have to wait and see, Owen, what happens this afternoon. As usual, thank you very much for your insights and your time here. Owen Nkomo, the Chief Executive Officer, the CEO of Inkunzi Wealth Group, with some analysis and insights on what we should be expecting this afternoon from Tito Mboweni. We'll hit it